Hi guys, it's Kate here for my January wrap-up. Now this is going to be a long one, so go ahead and make yourself a cup of tea and curl up and get cozy now that we are into February and done with January, the worst month of the year. If you're wondering, even though this says coffee, this is Earl Grey with just a splash of half and half and one sugar cube. Delicious. So I read quite a bit in January. I DNF'd 3 books. You will see as you watch more of my wrap-ups, I am free with the DNFing because that's how I get into reading slumps. So I just know kind of to preserve my reading and to keep it going, I need to just set things down if I'm not enjoying them, because then I find myself just kind of avoiding reading altogether. So 3 DNFs, I read 9 books and 1 graphic novel. So to start with, I'll tell you about the graphic novel I read, and that was Jane the Fox and Me. And I gave this 3 stars. I just don't seem to be kind of the right candidate for graphic novels. I think I just have a problem with the brevity of them. I enjoyed it, I thought it was good, but I just wanted more of the story. So I gave it 3 stars. I enjoyed it. And I'll go ahead and just tell you all in a row about the ones that I DNF'd. And the first, unfortunately, was My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. So I think this was one that it was just not the book for me. I got about 150 pages into it, and I just wasn't invested in any of the characters. The one friend that I did like more, one of the main characters, you weren't hearing as much about, and the other one, I just wasn't connecting with at all. So I think it was just a case of the wrong time for maybe even the right book. Maybe if I had tried it at another time. But I just had other books that I was wanting to get to, so I wasn't motivated enough to finish that one. And then the other one that I DNF'd, and this might be kind of controversial, was Uprooted by Naomi Novik. And for this one, I had such high hopes, and I really wanted to like it, but I don't know what I was thinking. Like, it's basically inspired by Beauty and the Beast, and so I don't know why. I was just really caught off guard that she was falling in love with her captor, and I just wasn't expecting that. And I thought the writing was good, and I liked the world. It did seem a little bit over the top sometimes, like maybe kind of trying too hard, but I thought it was like pretty good. And yeah, I think it just wasn't for me. Just kind of the romance aspect just kind of confused me. So unfortunately, I had to DNF that one, because I was getting it towards the middle of the month. I was getting into a really bad reading slump, and I had other books that I wanted to finish. I had goals for my TBR, and so I didn't finish it. So sometimes you just have to cut your losses. And then unfortunately, my booktuber recommends book, The Hearing Trumpet by Leonora Carrington, I also had to DNF. So I got maybe 80 pages into this, and out of 170. This is not a long book, but I kind of knew 20 pages in that this book was not for me. And the reason I knew this was because when I read this, I felt like I was reading Alice in Wonderland, and I'm one of the few booktubers out there who doesn't like Alice in Wonderland. It's just kind of the strangeness of the world just really perplexes me. Like, I don't know why it has to be so weird, quote unquote. So it's just my personality. This has the potential to be a fun story. So this is about Marion Leatherby, a 92-year-old woman who is hard of hearing, and her friend gives her a hearing trumpet, and she overhears her son, who she lives with, her grown son, and his family talking about her and how they're going to put her in a nursing home, and then they take her to the nursing home, and it's kind of all of the crazy stuff that happens there. And so Leonora Carrington was a surrealist painter, and this is just not my speed. So unfortunately, I didn't finish this. It had some elements that I would have liked. Like, I liked that there was an elderly woman as the main character. I think our culture has this obsession with youth and the young, and so I think it's neat to put out things like this. but unfortunately it just wasn't for me. So I didn't finish that one. Now on to the books that I did finish. So I got all my DNFing out of the way and kind of my negativity. I have mostly positive things about all of the next books that I read. And the first one is Willa Cather's O Pioneers, and I did a buddy read of this with Ange from Beyond the Pages. It was really great just to bounce our ideas off each other and, you know, think about just the different aspects of the book. This is a story about Alexandra Bergson, whose family are immigrants and are living in Nebraska and trying to live off of the land. And Alexandra's father becomes ill, and he ends up bequeathing the farm to Alexandra. And this is so beautifully written, and it blew me away. This is my second Willa Cather, and I will definitely be reading more Willa Cather. I did a review of this. I will link this down below if you would like to hear more thoughts on this, but this was a 4-star read for me. The next book that I read was The Vicar of Wakefield by Oliver Goldsmith. This was a buddy read that I did with Katie from Books and Things, and I love her channel. I'll link it down below. She just has so many fun things. She's did a Jane Austen week during Jane Austen's birthday week. She's going to be doing a Dickens fortnight in February, and she also is doing a How to Speak Victorian series, which is very fun. But this is a pre-Victorian novel, so this is just about his family and all of the hardships that they go through, and it ends up kind of one thing after another happens, and just to his daughters and his son, and he has, I think, 5 children, and they have financial troubles also, and it's just like boom, 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 one thing after the other, and then eventually, you know, some of the things are redeemed, and there is somewhat of a happy ending, but Katie and I both agreed we enjoyed this, but it ended up seeming kind of convoluted and just over the top, kind of all of these, here's another bad thing, here's another bad thing, just kind of thrown in. So I don't think I'll be rereading this. It was enjoyable, but if I really wanted, I could check it out of the library. So this was a 3-star read for me. The next book that I read that I don't have a physical copy with me because I checked it out from the library, and that is, I finished The Way We Live Now by Anthony Trollope. And this is a Victorian novel. Anthony Trollope was quite prolific, and it is about maybe 10 different main characters, and Augustus Melmont is one of the main characters, and he comes into town and ends up having this railway that he wants everyone to invest in. It's going to be this giant railway that will be unlike any other railway that's been around, and so he gets all of these investors for that. And his daughter Marie ends up falling madly, hopelessly in love with Felix Carberry, who you quickly come to realize is quite the scoundrel and is on the hunt for great, great wealth. So he is kind of a scoundrel, and you get to know his mother, who is trying to be a romance novelist, kind of working at that and sending in stories to the paper. And then there's also his sister Hedda, who her older, kind of significantly older cousin Roger has decided that she should marry him, and that is in her best interest. So there's a lot of Roger just hoping and pleading with Hedda to marry him, and so that is kind of a frustrating part of the story as well. And then it's made more complicated when he introduces Hedda to his friend Paul Montague, who she ends up falling madly in love with, and Paul falls in love with her as well. But there are also some things about Paul's past she did not know, so that complicates their relationship. And then also in the story, there are, you know, just lots. This is a very, very Victorian feeling novel. This is a hard book for me to talk about because there's simply so much that happens in it. And I will link my period drama Monday that I did on that, just because I think that would help you get a good idea of the plot as well. And so this was a book that I definitely enjoyed. I thought the plot was good, and obviously it's a classic, you know, so it's going to be an interesting plot, but there were not that many characters that I actually liked. And so, you know, when I read Wuthering Heights, there wasn't really a single character that I liked, but the writing was so beautiful that it made me love the book, whereas this has more action-oriented, fast-paced writing, and so there wasn't as much for me to love about this book. So like I said, I definitely enjoyed it. I just did not find myself emotionally involved and emotionally attached to really any of the characters. So it was kind of a mixed bag. Fun read, but not kind of how emotionally involved I get with maybe a Dickens or a Bronte novel. So still enjoyable, and if you are interested in Victorian literature, I would definitely check out Anthony Trollope. And the next one that I read, and I will be posting a review-ish, I'm calling it, because I'm really intimidated to do an what I would call an official review of this book, and that is Middlemarch by George Eliot. And this was quite the journey reading this book. This book is very long, as you can see, and a lot of people are intimidated to read it. I am glad I have it checked off the list now. There were characters that I was really glad that I got to know while reading this, and characters like Dorothea and Tertius Lydgate, the doctor in it. So I really enjoyed the characters in this story, and this is just the basic story of the town of Middlemarch and the different people in the town over a course of time and the way that their lives all intertwine with each other. And unfortunately, though, the politics in this just kind of bored me to tears. So that made this not as enjoyable for me. And I know that's kind of a thing in lots of classics. Like I know there were parts in Les Mis that I really struggled through and parts in Anna Karenina that I really struggled through. So I think you'll find that with any older classic, because I think a goal of this is to kind of educate you on other things like politics and church structures. So it definitely was interesting, and I found myself very attached to the characters, but I did find myself trudging along through other pieces. So I would say that this is still definitely a worthwhile classic to read, but it's going to be a challenge. I think this is getting to be pretty long, and I think I'll just do a part 2, and so I will put that up shortly after this, just so you can have it divided up. I will see you guys for part 2, and I hope you have enjoyed this one. Please comment down below, and I hope you're having a lovely day. Bye-bye.